Good morning, everybody. You're very welcome. I hope you are sitting comfortably and surrounded with things that you like on this little webinar about enhancing the environment. Um, my name is Joyce Fitzpatrick, and I have worked in the area of dementia for 15 years, providing activities for a large nursing home with 150 residents. I also looked after my own mother at home for 17 years through Alzheimer's disease. I think I understood by the end of that quite a bit about this idea of the environment and setting the scene. So I hope to share it with you now. My main interest, of course, is in the outdoors, in nature. So I will be coming around to that without before too long. But I'd like to just start with the idea of home. Home is something that isn't really definite, as you probably know already, for many people who are living with a dementia. Home is a word that refers sometimes to an earlier home in their life, way back many years before. It might not refer to the place where they are at the moment, even though they might have been there for 20 or 30 years. That was the case with my mother. She very regularly went back to the family home. And when she went missing, we knew where to find her. That's where she was, up in Churchtown, knocking at the door, wanting to get into the family home. It's interesting, isn't it, how we have a homing instinct like the birds. We seem to know where is home. And I suppose in many cases, people are going back not just to a place, but to a feeling where they were young children and their mother was around and their sisters and brothers, and they had maybe no cares or no worries. So that's really what they're looking for. They're looking for calm and comfort when they are talking about home. Many people talk about going back to mummy or mammy or whatever. And in some cases, their reality is that they're still looking after their mother or their grandmother or their aunt, and they must get home and they must look after them. And that's something that happens quite common, actually. I'm sure you've come across it many times. In other times, ways also, people sometimes don't recognize the people around them for whom they are. For example, a woman will often say to a man, "You're not my husband. How could you be my husband? You're very old. I'm not old. I'm young, but you're an old man. That can be upsetting for the husband, but it is just one of the things that happens where a person with cognitive impairment can lose the logic, that says, no, hang on, I'm in my 70s or my 80s or my 90s now, so maybe that is my husband. Maybe he's got old as well. They just don't seem to have that capacity in many cases. It's also very common to overlay one person with another when confusion sets in. So we might mistake our daughter for our mother or things like that. In some cases, a person with dementia will befriend somebody, could be a volunteer or the lady who comes in to clean the house or something, and she might just be drawn to that person. That can very often happen because they pick up something in the face that reminds them of an earlier time and a safe person to be with. So enhancing the environment is really about, first and foremost, understanding where the person is at, which I'm going to talk about. And then I'm going to move on to the simple tricks that you can do that do help and the research behind that. I have a little PowerPoint to show you. And then I'm going to move on to things like special events and special circumstances. So I hope you'll get something good out of that. So why is it so important to enhance our environment? Well, when we're young and we're footloose and fancy free, we get up in the morning and we don't really know where we're going to go during the day. We're led this way and that way, and we keep changing our mind where we're going and make decisions. But as we get older, we don't. We tend to go where other people want us to go, when other people want us to go there. We slow down. Very often, people slow down quite a bit who have dementia. They walk more slowly, they're more cautious, and their world shrinks. This is particularly, of course, obvious in a person who goes to live in a care home if they are living in very tight circumstances. And I've seen around the country many care homes where you have 5 or 6 people in one room. And of course, then in the day room, they're quite cramped together as well. So there's a lack of personal space. Now, that really can be quite stressful for people and can infringe on their freedom. But if a person is living at home, hopefully they have the best of all possible worlds. They have all their things around them that they love and appreciate and have gathered over the years. But as well as that, hopefully they have their neighbors, their friends, and family calling in and being very comfortable in that surroundings, you know. Because when you go to visit a relative in a care home, sometimes you are distracted by other people in the home, or you might be very conscious of the nursing activities that are going on or whatever. You very often are not paying full attention to the residents because you're caught up with things. So I really think that when a person is lucky enough to still be at home in the later days of their life, it's the perfect environment. So, what are the ways we can enhance that environment? Well, obviously, safety comes first, and we think of things that we can add to the environment that are going to make life easier for the person with dementia and the carers. So, it's a really good idea to take a long look at the house when the resident is not there, the person is not there, preferably, and say, okay, well, what changes would make improvements around here? Very often family members are very interested in getting in the professional advice at this point. And I know there are physiotherapists, occupational therapists, and they're very well versed in all of the changes that make great differences. For example, not having rugs that you can trip on is the number one. Having safe handles around stairs and around the bath and the toilet, obviously. Good signage around the building, around the house, and obviously safe kettles and safe clocks and all of that. Special switches that can maybe switch off the power. Nowadays, of course, there's a slew of modern attachments that people have. I know a friend of mine lives locally to me here in Blackrock, and her mother has all sorts of gadgets attached to herself, her handbag, her keys, and her front door. Which means that with cameras and all the rest, she can be watched and she can live her life independently, really just with her daughter checking in on her every 15 minutes of the day. You might think it's intrusive, but if it's done correctly, it can work very well to support a person to continue living in their own home. All these devices. Very handy when people are continuously losing things and putting things away to have these little tabs that you can get. They're very inexpensive, about $5 each, and you can have one on the mobile phone, the keys, and your phone will indicate where these objects are in the house. And they'll normally be in somewhere hidden, like a pillow or inside a pocket in the wardrobe. They're very handy, all of these things. So these are the things that are around safety, really, and the day-to-day. But I'm more thinking about the quality of life things here today. And I want to just say that most people find that a house or a home or a room that is relatively tidy is more relaxing. Now, I am not saying the place has to be minimalist or anything. I myself love to have things all around me. But if things are stacked well and there's a label on them, or some kind of areas in the room that are free of too many objects, that's good, because the eye needs somewhere to rest. I find I've been often now putting photographs in a straight line around the room. So a person sitting in the chair can browse the photographs one at a time and easily, go from one photo to the other, recognizing friends and family. That works really, really well to have the photographs at eye level and in hand, hopefully not with glass frames, but in an album or whatever, so that the person can regularly remind themselves who Auntie Mary is or was, and all the other people in the family. That's a really, really good one. Another thing, of course, is the colors that surround one. Now, in the summertime, we love bright colors. Most people will say they love certain colors, and in the autumn, they appreciate other colors, and winter, more black and white and navies. So changing these is very simple with a few cushions or a few, curtains or a rug here and there to make the environment more pleasing to the eye. So these are just simple little ways of changing the environment just to make it more safe and more comfortable. But I want to talk about the area of activities. Now, when we get up in the morning, it's a fantastic thing if we have something to do for the day. We know clearly, oh, today is Wednesday or Thursday or Saturday. I know exactly what I can do today or what I want to do today. And the chores of the day can be everyday chores, tidying up in the morning. There can be some things that you want to get to, like writing a birthday card. And of course, they can be jobs around the house. And this is the great advantage to living at home, that a person who's living in their own home can get involved with the house, decisions about curtains and pillows and colors and decisions about when we will clean out the fridge and will we change the cupboards and all sorts of decisions. It's wonderful to feel the autonomy, to feel in charge of one's house. That's absolutely fantastic. So this is one of the things, the occupation. So during the day, there should be things to do which tick all the boxes to the human needs that we talked about on previous webinars. I'll just go over them again. The first need is for identity, integration, intellectual needs, social needs, emotional needs, self-esteem, and kinesthetic needs. Spiritual needs, I didn't even mention. So these are all the needs that all of us have in our lives. But people with dementia very often have to have some of these psychological needs met for them because maybe they're not able to make their own decisions. They need to be offered choice and they need to be offered the opportunity to make a difference in their life. So just for example, if we're thinking about activities for the day, we think of something which will raise the identity of the person, make them feel marvelous. So for example, maybe something that they have done, something they have created, maybe a painting would do that. Could say, my goodness, I painted that. And they could have a date on it and provide a lot of satisfaction. Or a jumper that somebody has knit, or a picture of a fish that a man caught in the Shannon many years ago. So that might be something that will raise the identity. But there's nothing better than the actual name itself, the printed name of the person. And I have it here if I could only unstick it. So my name is Joyce, and I love to see my name, and it's a great idea. As I remind you, carers and OTs and physios to have your name proudly on you when you go to visit somebody with dementia. So they can relate to you, and also they will love to see their name written. So you might write their name on the special thing you brought for today, the bar of chocolate for after lunch or whatever it is, put their name on it, It's like coming down on Christmas morning or Easter and there's something there with our name on it. It's just a lovely, lovely feeling of identity. There are lots of songs that bring up the name of a person, particularly the name Eileen. There's lots of songs with the name Eileen or Mary or Kathleen, and these songs can be regularly used, again, to draw attention to the identity of the person. The intellectual needs of the person will be met by giving them things to read, offering them things around the house, things with large font. Now, they don't have to be newspaper, they can be all sorts of articles, but once the font is big enough, the person should be able to have the satisfaction of reading it and saying, look, I can read that. Ireland, record Ireland's biodiversity. My mother used to love that, reading titles out. And really what she was saying is, I can read that. I'm not stupid, you know. Social needs, obvious that we look forward to people visiting our home and we get ready for them coming. We will lay out the tray and fold up the napkins and maybe do a little floral arrangement to go on the tray. We write a card after the person has been there. Maybe we decide to go to the local shop with our carer and buy a present, whatever it is. The social element of being at home, really important. We have our calendar on the wall and we mark out birthdays and all the activities around sociability. The emotional expression that's very neat, the need for us to express our emotions is very easy at home. If your resident wants to cry because they hear a sad song, or if they want to get annoyed or angry, or if they want to laugh and laugh for no reason at all, there's nothing stopping them at home. It's a wonderful thing. Some conditions I've seen come with this tendency to overreact to stimulus. So sometimes, for example, if you're out shopping and your resident sees a dog, they might get overly agitated about the dog, or they might get very affectionate and want the dog to come home with them. These are all the extremes of emotion that can happen within dementia when the brain is disrupted. So of course, we just have to, expect these things and have distraction and lead the person, to a better emotional state. Then I talked about spirituality. That is the need for a person for quiet time, for poetry, for pleasure, for maybe just staring out the window at nature or being in nature, something that will recharge their batteries. Very important part of environment enhancement as well. And the kinesiology is really about the space that I have around me, my kinesthetic needs, giving me space so that I can move and I can decide I want to change my furniture around, or I want to take things down or put things up. It's wonderful in one's own home. You have the ability to do that. So now I'm going to share a screen and just show you some of the PowerPoints I wrote up with the points. This area of enhanced environment has been used for many, many years to improve quality of life, as I hope you will see from these slides. So, environmental enhancement, that's improvement for older people and those living with the dementia. Now, there's been a lot of research on this area, the effect of the environment on every single aspect of a person's life when they're older, from the feeling that they have when they wake up in the morning to the feeling they have going to bed at night, every aspect. But a lot of research has been done on the effect of the environment on the nutritional benefit. And so that's why I've pulled out this particular research paper here. The effect of the environment can largely improve the nutritional state in older adults. So if this is a picture of a typical sitting room from our residents might have had in their own home, might still have in their own home. This is like the front room, the drawing room as it used to be called. And very often there would be freestanding furniture, wallpaper, pictures and soft furnishings like this. And this is the kind of environment that a person enjoys sitting in and enjoys eating in. Now, if you compare that to some modern day care home settings, they're very functional. They've got easy white tables and chairs and fluorescent lights overhead and all the rest. And they're not really conducive to the homely atmosphere. So the studies have proven that when a person is surrounded by comforting images and sounds and soft furnishings, they're more likely to eat better, more likely to eat a wider range of food, to spend longer over their food, and indeed to drink more fluids, which of course are really important in dementia. It's very, very important. So it's interesting that you can alter the environment that the person is eating in. So, for example, with my own mother, we decided to gradually move her dining table down from the corner where she had it, slightly down the room into a sunnier area. And that meant that it was lovely. There was something to look out the window at, and she spent maybe a half an hour longer at the breakfast or the dinner table than she would have. You know, it's really, really a great idea to do that. And maybe even to, after the meal, remove the tablecloth and set up jigsaws or puzzles or some kind of wind up toys or some whatever is of interest to the person, photographs for an afternoon after lunch activity. And the environment really supports that very much. Okay, the next one is the reasons for deliberate change might be safety, of course, that is a first consideration. Orientation. Now, this is about, we know that the sun rises in the east in the morning, so a south facing kitchen or a south facing wall will be sunny in the morning and not in the evening time. So if whatever way we decide to use the environment that we have, we might look to the garden or to the bedroom and say, where is the sunny place in this room, and deliberately move the armchair to that area of the room. Recognition, very important. A person needs to recognize, oh, that's where I put my clothes, and that's where I hang things up, or that's where I get my food. So recognition would be putting up signage. And we did that with our mother. We had fridge, cupboard, tea bags, sugar, everything so that she could easily find things. And she was never bothered at all about having these signs in her house, toilet, bathroom, whatever. The stimulation of appetite is by the mention of food. So by having food visually available from the morning time, you can do that in the person's home. That greatly stimulates appetite. Not just a bowl of porridge, but the package of porridge and the carton of milk and the saucepan, the wooden spoon, they will all stimulate the enjoyment of the porridge. As fruit, lovely colored fruit can encourage a person to eat more widely, get their 5 a day. Preventing boredom is a very important part of enhancing the surroundings. In many care homes during the pandemic, people were literally bored to death. They really were, because in many, many places there was nothing to do. And of course, the carers and nurses were going out of their way to keep people separate, and they didn't want to be passing objects from one another. So boredom was very big on the agenda. Stirring memory is a great way of dipping into happiness, happier days. Many of us don't even do that, in our ordinary everyday life. But as we get older, there's more and more reasons to remember holidays and our children when they were young and all of that. Obviously, our mobility will increase if there are free places to walk around our house and good banisters and handles and signage. And then we are very relaxed at the end of the day, having had a great lot of walking in our day. Even simple changes. Our independence increases. If somebody has said to me, okay, the toast, how do you do toast? Well, you use the toaster, then you put the butter on, and then the jam. If that's written in a simple little sign, I can read that, and it supports me in making myself some toast and putting jam on it. Relationships can be formed very well by people being introduced to other people in their home in very careful and deliberate ways. So, for example, as I said, people have their name, So if you are trying to introduce somebody into your family home who's going to do a bit of hoovering or is going to fix the lights or something, very important that the person with dementia is told ahead of time who this person is, and they're asked their permission to come into the house and do the repair work or whatever it is. This is just really important. Dining becomes enjoyable. People look forward to dinner parties and planning birthdays and anniversaries. Much more likely to go outdoors if it is made easy. So if you have somebody's outdoor coat at the back door and their boots or their sweeping brush, they're much more likely to go outdoors and have a little bit of outdoor time. Challenging behavior is decreased hugely with enhanced environments because the environment has been enhanced to suit the person. And so everything that is soothing to me as a person, the things that I like to look at and I like to read are there. But things that would annoy me are not there. So things that a person, if anyone is feeling challenged by their environment, maybe they have all their bank details around and it's upsetting them, they should be taken away, of course. Your mood improves because you're feeling that you're living in this sort of wonderful paradise where everything around you are things that you like, things that are beneficial and supportive. And of course, to sleep without disruptions is amazing. So everything about sleep, getting ready for sleep, winding down, having gone to the toilet, having had good exercise during the day, and good chemicals going around from positive experiences mean that the person will sleep much, much better. And of course, that improves somebody with dementia more than anything else. It's good sleep. Think about color. A lot of people say blue is their favorite color and summer is their favorite season. But in fact, red is actually very attractive to a lot of people too. Red roses or, red clothes even. Green is, of course, a very relaxing color and it's nature. It's connected with friendship and activity. But blue is something that people come back to time and time again. It reduces the blood pressure, produces calm, and happy humor. So, green space is good, but blue-green space is even better. Orange is the least popular color, but it's very good with purple. And you have to be careful with white napkins. They might look like bread, and people might be inclined to put them in their mouth, which is embarrassing for them when they realize what they've done. Also, white can look like litter in the garden. Even with flowers in the garden, here and there, if you've white flowers, they tend to look like litter. Clothes hanging on the line are wonderful when you're at home. So that's another environmental enhancement, to hang some clothes on the line. Even if they're not wet or that haven't been washed, just hang them up for the simple effect of them blowing in the wind. Yellow, of course, is a wonderfully cheering color and it brings harmony. So a few buttercups in a glass on the person's meal tray, lovely. Now, a few years ago, there was a lot happening around the area of dementia where they said, bring in so much stuff into the place, have the corridors lined with every kind of coat and jacket and jersey with all sorts of boots and shoes and everything. So this would stimulate memory and would give the person something to touch and be with all day long. Of course, the attitudes around this have changed a lot this year and it probably won't go back. They can stimulate memories, but you don't want too many because they can cause confusion. And anything that's hanging about is going to need to be dry cleaned or washed. And of course, that is awkward. Bathrooms and kitchens should provide ease of access and, of course, be easily cleaned. Now, I noticed when my mother was going through all these years of dementia, she got great comfort from adjustments to the bathroom. Great comfort. She loved her bubble bath. She loved her showers. Everything was set there to be safe and to be a good experience, a positive experience. So shower gels, we didn't use soap because that was slippy, but shower gels and all sorts of talcum powders and creams and foot creams and all of these things. This was just enhancing her experience of the bathroom. Obviously putting out the toothbrush, the flannel and everything, very, very good. To remind the person to this is a good thing to do now to brush your teeth, and there's the hairbrush, and you know, a person is reminded. We did this in one of the other videos. I wonder if you've seen it. The hand under, hand over. Yeah. So if I want to help a resident brush their teeth, I gently take their hand, I have my hand under their hand, and then I turn my hand around as I make my way over with their hand to the hairbrush and lift the hairbrush up. And, you know, once you have their permission, you gently brush their hair, and their own hand is brushing their hair with you. As the same about dressing, you know, hand under, your hand under, and then you turn it around. You can then close the buttons, pull up the zips, and adjust the necklace and the scarf where the person feels that they are doing it because their hand is moving around. It also keeps the skill, maintains the skill. Very important. Sitting rooms should be full of things to do at different times of the day. And this is in particular if you have maybe two people or more in a room and they have very different activities. There should be a box that you can pull out that has maybe, for example, nature posters, if the person's interested in wildlife, or somebody else might be at a later stage of dementia, more reflex stage, and they would just love holding on to an object such as this, beautiful, and just looking at it all day and feeling the different feels of the wall. Objects such as swimming togs can be great fun and suggest the summer, you know, what time of the year it is. Facing the seats to look out the window, looking at trees, we know is beneficial, very beneficial for people with dementia and anybody, in fact. Outdoor spaces. Okay, we know that the outdoor spaces are just fantastic for people. The first thing that they do is they lower agitation straight away. They cause an increase in the serotonin, the happy chemical in the body, increased vitamin D in the skin, which is very helpful for immunity and sleep. So this place, the garden, can be, or a yard, or a passageway, or indeed a garage, can be a place that can be either passive or active. Now, a passive place is obviously a place where a person can sit and can do things. They can knit outdoors, or they can do nature studies or art, or in fact, ironing. You can even, I know a woman who does her ironing outdoors with an extension lead, and the iron is turned down to cool, and she's ironing away, sitting in her wheelchair. You can do anything outdoor and indoor. It's a great idea to think of bringing some indoor activities outdoor and some outdoor activities indoor, depending on the weather. Consider places that are in the sunshine for warmth, or maybe protected against strong winds. Obviously, your seating and wide paths are very essential for ease of mobility. Now, it's always a good idea to have things to look at when you're in the garden. That's what we do. We tend to focus, and odd numbers work very well. So if we have 3 objects, for example, 3 scarecrows, or 3 trees, or 3 bushes, or 5, it means that the eye will travel from one to the other and will give interest. It will also give us something to walk towards and walk back from. Picket fences and open trellis fences mean that we can look through the fence at what's happening in our neighbor's garden or in our vegetable garden. We can look through the fence. And of course, all granite walls and the like give great stability. Any kind of a solid wall gives a feeling of safety in a garden. So again, if we haven't got these things, maybe we can enhance them. You know, if you haven't got them, you can maybe suggest to the family, why don't we, introduce this or that or whatever. And maybe instead of a step, we might put in a slope, which would be easier to, negotiate. Color in the garden should be used in blocks. So we might have all of our garden chairs one color, like a very strong blue, we might have our flowers in blocks because it's much more easily seen if we have a lot of yellow together and then we have red and over here we have the blue. It works very well with people with cognitive impairment and also possibly poor vision. Remember, never have bamboo canes sticking out of the ground for eye injuries. Really, really not a good idea. But color is really good in the garden. And anything that increases the sensory aspect of the garden, wind socks, they're the things that blow in the wind and show you the direction. We can have wind chimes, bird feeders, and the best of all is the bird bath. No doubt, especially at the moment, all the robins are out and the blackbirds and they're having their baths and their babies are around also. Obviously in the garden, you can have a sports area, you can have all sorts of things, a barbecue area, whatever you want, the sky is the limit. So outdoor spaces are easily enhanced. Now, seasonal adjustments work very well. So people with cognitive impairment need clues to where they are very often. So it's very good if you can have one of those calendars that tells you what day of the week it is, what month of the year, and what season it is. As well as saying today it's June, we can say maybe that's the summertime, just in case somebody doesn't really connect it. Art projects are a great idea to be around the room. Some people like their grandchildren's drawings up on the wall, and that aids the relationship between the grandparents and the children. But they also signify, oh, Christmas is here or Halloween is here, if they are, up at the right time. It's always a good idea to take them down afterwards, move them into an album or something. Any objects which provide sensory enrichment, so we could bring in autumn leaves and cones and animals like baby chickens or a hen or a puppy. Any of these things will provide for sensory enrichment to a person whose life has shrunk, really. And let's not forget the written word in a clear font provides a memory prompt and reduces frustration. Now here I found a picture of a woman with these paper flowers that she made and they're attached to her wrists. So if you see that now, that's a number of different boxes are being ticked there. The person has, number one, chosen the colors, has made the flowers, which has been very good for their manual dexterity, has agreed to have the flowers put on bands, elastic bands, to go on their wrists. And of course, this person then is remembering all day long, I made these, I'm great, and they're very colorful. They're being reminded that it's summertime as well. And here she is getting on with another bit of work because the confidence is boosted. So it's just so many things can happen. The Memory Harbour in Vergemount Hospital in Clonskea here in Dublin is a place that's really quite amazing. And Joan Fitzpatrick works for the HSE, and her team, they make suggestions to families for things like cooking, resting, bathing, etc. So the Memory Harbour is really just a building, an old building that was repurposed, and you go there with your relative, make an appointment with her, and she will give suggestions as to how to set up, the bed, the bedside locker, the lighting and all of that, to consider all the different aspects that we wouldn't think of, most of us can't think of. She's really, really, really great. She supports safety and autonomy as much as possible, which means that a person can continue their life as they were before, but with certain adjustments. You can see she has ideas about how to prepare simple meals, how to store food, signage, how to keep hygiene going in the kitchen, and lots of information in the bathroom too. Very interesting. So it's there in Clonskea in Dublin. Don't forget that visual triggers support memory, so they should be used as often as possible. So, for example, after the meal, we go to the bathroom, we would place the toothbrush within reach of the person, and little happy reminders, written on the wall, like clean and go, or switch off or turn off the water, or something, whatever we need to write. That can work quite well. Okay, I just want to talk about special situations and special occasions. So let's talk about special situations first. And I'm talking about challenging behavior here, which is very often something that happens, right? So you come in and you're working as a carer in a home, and from the moment you arrive, they don't want you there. Now, maybe you've had previous experiences with this man or this woman, and maybe they have been very pleasant. And today they're saying, no, out, out, out. I don't want you. No, 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 no. It's very difficult when you know that you're supposed to go in and help that person to change their clothes and have their breakfast, and that you need to spend 2 hours there. You've been sent there. It's very difficult. You don't want to push yourself on top of another person. So there are a lot of tips that you can use that work. And one is to stay back, stay well back, and watch your body language. So your body language should not be like this. Mary, Mary, listen, I am your minder. Not like that. The body language should be like a dog with another dog, submissive, submissive. You get yourself down and smaller than you are, and you might smile and look kindly at the person. But if anything, what you need to do is you need to withdraw. So if you're forward, you need to step back. Now, they're probably going to shut the door in your face or something. But there are ways, gentle ways, that you can find yourself back in a relationship with the person. For example, if you say things like, Mary, may I just talk to you for just a minute? Your son, Michael, told me that you might like me to call. No, no, I don't want you, whatever. And so, you gently approach the person, and usually it works. Usually there's ways. You can say, for example, could you just help me filling in this form? I have to fill in this form. It just says, how are you feeling today, or something, And very often when a person feels that they're in charge and they're doing something, they're much more likely to let you into their life. That works really, really well. That's one type of challenging behavior. Another type is when a person firmly shuts their mouth and they're not going to eat anything. That's a pretty common one. Or they spit the food out. If you're helping them, supporting their feeding, they might spit the food out, indicating, I don't want this. Now, this is more complicated, and this is usually worked by the person having a lead up to the meal. So if any of us have been smelling food when it's cooking, it does aid your appetite. If we've seen images in our mind, or real images of roast chicken and potatoes and whatever we really love, it increases the saliva in our mouth and increases the digestion, which starts in the mouth, and the chewing and the swallowing. It enhances all of that, and it makes the person look forward to the food as well. So that's really, really important, that we set the scene for meals. We talk about the meal, we look forward to it, we prepare it, and we go out of our way to have the nice smells around. I've been guilty of bringing coffee and everything into a room. There's a question there.
Yeah. If a person has been recommended not to drive by their doctor, what is the chances after PET and MRI scans of having them assessed?
Yeah, it's a very complicated area. This idea of not being allowed to drive is very contentious issue. It's the big issue for most people. They feel that their independence has been taken away. So one doctor might recommend, oh no, your mother must give up driving, and another doctor might say, no, I think your mother is fine. Yes, she's not great at parking, but she's still able to drive. So the opinion can vary from person to person, and the MRI scan is not that great at determining if a person can drive or not, although they're pretty good at looking at the spatial orientation and condition of the person's situation. But again, the MRI scan is also interpreted by a geriatrist, and so the long and short of it is that sooner or later, a person with dementia is probably going to need to give up their car and stop driving pretty soon. And so the trick that works there is, as far as I understand, is to get people into the idea that it's far better to take the bus or the train. You can bring up the argument about it being much less expensive, that now petrol is so expensive. You'd be better we'll go on the bus to town, or we'll take a taxi or whatever. That's one good argument. Also, we talk sometimes about the weather, and we say, well, it's going to be raining later on, so I don't think you should go in the car, or I can bring you in my car later, this kind of thing. There has to be ways around it, because there's no doubt about it. The potential for accidents is very high, and yet there aren't a lot of accidents involving people with dementia. There really aren't, as I understand, relative to the number of young people who have accidents much more frequently. Challenging behavior is certainly one of the difficult areas, and enhancing the environment does an awful lot to bring joy and pleasure. So, for example, if you have something in your bag, in your fallback bag always, that might bring pleasure to your residents. For example, in my mother's case, this was the sort of thing my mother loved in her house, in her bedroom, and in her garden. And color was really important to her, and parties, and all of this sort of thing. She also had wind-up toys. And when she would be agitated, I would say, look, 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 and wind up the toy and put it on the table. And she would be laughing and laughing and laughing so much. So anything that you might have in your bag, you might say, oh my goodness, I'm after finding a bar of chocolate or whatever. Once the person is not a diabetic, of course. It might be a packet of crisps or something. Anything that will cause a breakdown in the behavior works really, really well. Sometimes it's also good just to appeal to the person and say, oh, Margaret, I'm sorry I've upset you, because I really like you and I know you for a few months now, and I don't like to see you upset. Whatever it is, if we appeal to the person's humanity, that very often works very, very well. So challenging behavior, yes, the environment is sometimes causing the challenging behavior. If a person has all sorts of letters from the doctor, the dentist, and the banker all around the place, it would upset most of us. It certainly will upset somebody with, cognitive impairment. The idea that somebody has taken their money is a really, really big one. And if anybody expresses concern about these things, the best thing is to go with that, to listen to them very carefully. And they say, no, it's not you, but the other girl, she took my money. And absolutely listen to them and go with that, and get the feeling. What is the feeling? They're feeling they're losing control of their life. And so, there are ways that you can bring them around to feeling, no, they have great control in their life. You say, look at the lovely painting you did yesterday, or you know what? You're great for remembering birthdays. Your grandchildren love you. You're always so generous, or So it's to involve the person in their own, just that they will feel well in their own skin. Okay, so the number one best thing in the environment, you're going to wonder why I left it till now, is music. Music is so good. And in this year of pandemic, so many people have been starved for music. I believe that even at the moment, it is illegal to have live music. Even today, on the, what is it, the 9th of June, it is illegal to have music out live. That's incredible. To sing out inside in the garden, it's illegal, against the law. It's crazy. Environmental enhancement with music is just fantastic. It could be the dawn chorus of the birds that you play on your tape recorder or your phone or your Bluetooth speaker. It can be classical music, modern music, rap. It can be all sorts of things. And sing-alongs, but of course what works best is the music that the person chooses for themselves. It might be jazz that they like or Irish ballads, but whatever it is, the music that that person likes is the most soothing of all. After that, of course, is what they're looking at, the visual interpretation. And a lot of people like looking at happiness. They like looking into a tree in full bloom, or as I say, clothes on the line, or happy faces. So you can get art books, and you can get all sorts of books where there are, even in the magazines, happy faces. A person gets great satisfaction out of that. The other thing is grooming. Animals, primates, they're grooming each other. So most people love to have somebody, touching their hair or their shoulders or hand massage. All of these things are great. Is there a question coming in, Manuela?
Yeah, there is a question from Maureen. She's asking, could you give guidance on how to manage pain for the person with dementia, please?
How to manage pain?
Yes.
Oh, really? Oh, that is a big.
That's a broad topic, I think.
That's the $6 million question. Yes. Well, pain management is something that, of course, is not the realm of the everyday person. It tends to be in the realm of doctors and nurses and social workers and things. But pain is a terrible, terrible causer of unhappiness and unease for a person. And there is a lot we can do. Number one, we can recognize that the person has pain, and we can ask them about that and get as much detail as we can about that. So, for example, by the end of the day or the end of our session, we are very aware that the person has said, yes, they have pain here and here in several different parts of the body. With pain, it is a fact of life that pain generally comes and goes during the day and during the night at very, very different times. And so there are many things that we can do. Obviously, if we are providing activities that prevent the pain getting any worse. So in some cases, we get advised that the person needs more mobility, or they need more occupation, or they need more nourishment. They're all things that we can help with, So that's what we do. We try to address the pain and say, okay, well, the person is in pain and that's awful, but a distraction really helps a lot. They say, for example, if you're moving two different parts of your body, it's very difficult to be also anxious and depressed at the same time. And it's really been shown, all right, that occupation is something that leads to happiness. That the body likes to be active and needs to be active. So that's what we can do. Obviously, pain relief is really, really needed and really important and should be prescribed for people, but not by us. It has to be by the medical professionals. Anxiety is something that is more easy to deal with, really. In my experience, the outdoor is absolutely terrific, particularly during the summer, for overcoming anxiety and even depression. Because by going outside, the person is immediately distracted. It might be by the cold or the heat or the wind or the sounds. It certainly will be by the sights that they see in the garden. They're going to be distracted, and they're going to be forgetting themselves. Also, when they look at the birds and the bees, they get involved in lives that are outside of their own lives. They hear the neighbors' children playing in the garden, and that reminds them of their own childhood or their own children. And of course, then they can be growing vegetables or flowers, or looking at how much a tree has grown since last year. So there's just so many benefits to being outdoors. And it does get a person over anxiety and depression, which are also sometimes resulting from pain. So that's a really good question. Thank you for that.